All right, let's talk about Pokemon cards. For a lot of us, they're just a fond childhood memory, right? For others, it's a serious hobby. But lately, you've probably seen the headlines. They've become something else entirely, a massive, complex, global market. So today, we're going to look right past all that hype and really unpack what's going on underneath. We'll explore how this is all evolving from what looks like a speculative bubble into something way more resilient, a predictable system driven by something much deeper than just profit. Let's figure this out.
Okay, just to get a sense of the sheer scale we're dealing with, look at this number, 26 million. You know what that is? That's roughly how many Pokemon cards were sent in for professional grading in just a single recent year. This has shot way, way past being a simple hobby. We're talking about a massive industrialized ecosystem that spans the entire globe. And yet, here's the fascinating part. At the very heart of all this value, there's a real tension. As one collector smartly put it, that little grade that can make a card worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, it's not some precise scientific fact. It's an informed opinion, sealed in a plastic case. So that leads us to the big question, right? If this whole system, this entire mountain of value, is resting on something so subjective, is it all just a house of cards? Is it just waiting for a strong breeze to come along and knock it all over? Or is there something more substantial, something more real, holding it all together? Well, that's exactly what we're here to find out. You know, the first piece of the puzzle isn't found in some complex market data or financial report. Nope. It's found in human psychology. Behind all those fluctuating price tags, there's this surprisingly predictable and incredibly powerful force at work. Let's call it the nostalgia engine. Here's how this engine works, and it's actually pretty simple. Every few years, a whole new wave of adults hits that sweet spot, their 20s and early 30s. They finally got some disposable income, and they get this powerful urge to reconnect with their childhood. And for millions and millions of people, what was that childhood filled with? Pokemon. This isn't random. It's a reliable generational cycle that literally turns memories into market demand. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. We can actually map these waves into the future. It's almost like a forecast. Right now, the kids who grew up with the XY games and cards are hitting their late teens and early 20s. That's kicking off a nostalgia boom for cards like the Flashfire Charizard. In just a few years, it's going to be the Sun and Moon generation's turn, and they'll be rediscovering gems like Hidden Fates. And you can bet that after that, Sword and Shield's time will come, when a set like Evolving Skies becomes their version of the original base set. Every single era is queued up to have its moment. And this is the part that is so crucial to understand. These new waves of interest, they don't replace the old ones. It's not like demand for the original cards just vanishes. No way. Instead, each era builds its own little microeconomy that just stacks right on top of the others. It creates this incredibly resilient market with all these multiple overlapping layers of demand. Okay, so nostalgia provides the constant renewable fuel for the engine. But for a market to really mature, it needs infrastructure, it needs roads, it needs rules. So now let's get into how technology is building the trust and transparency that's needed to turn this hobby into something that looks, well, a lot more like a stable asset class. It really all comes down to three huge technological shifts. You can think of them as the three pillars holding this whole thing up. First, standardizing those opinions and grading. Second, tracking the life story of every single card. And third, using AI to basically give the entire marketplace a brain. Let's start with grading, because it's getting a major upgrade. Over the next 5 to 10 years, you can expect AI to step in, making grades far more consistent. We'll see much better fraud detection and standardized data across all the grading companies. And, get this, innovations like slab wallets are coming. Think of them like a digital passport for each card, all stored in a shared registry. It's all about creating a universal source of truth, making every card's history totally transparent and verifiable. So the bottom line is this. That plastic case, it stops being just a protective shell. It evolves into a trusted vessel. It becomes a physical object that has a verifiable, secure digital identity. It's the perfect bridge connecting a physical collectible to a secure digital asset. Okay, the next pillar is provenance. Now, this is a concept that comes straight from the high-end art world. It's simply the history of an object, who owned it, where it's been, and it's built on the idea that this story adds a unique layer of value that goes way beyond just the physical condition of the card. This is the new frontier of what it means to be rare. Just think about it for a second. A A card that was once owned by a famous streamer, or one that was literally pulled from a pack during the finals of a world championship. That life story adds a narrative that you just can't replicate. And this isn't science fiction. We're talking about technology like tiny RFID or NFC chips being embedded right inside the slab, making it possible to track and verify this history securely. And finally, our third pillar, AI. Artificial intelligence is set to become the brain of this new market. Now, it's not going to replace human passion, not at all. It's going to amplify it. It'll analyze data to predict those nostalgia trends, identify assets that are undervalued, and even warn collectors when something is just a speculative bubble about to pop. It brings intelligence and efficiency, helping people navigate the market based on real meaning, not just temporary hype. So when you combine that predictable nostalgia engine with this new, robust technological infrastructure, something really profound starts to happen. Pokémon collecting stops being just a hobby and becomes a legitimate cultural pillar. And who are its peers here? We're talking about institutions, things with massive multi-generational appeal and deep, deep cultural roots. We're talking Star Wars, Marvel, comics, or even the luxury watch market. Pokémon is now playing in that same league. And we can actually see this happening in phases. Right now, we're in the legitimization phase. You see serious media coverage, high-end auctions. Soon, we're going to move into mainstream integration, where displaying graded cards in your home is just as normal as hanging a piece of art. And eventually, it'll reach cultural saturation, where it becomes a recognized asset class and, maybe more importantly, a way for different generations to connect with each other. So, let's put it all together. What do you call a market that's fueled by nostalgia, stabilized by technology, and cemented in our culture? Well, you call it a meaning economy. And this is the core idea, the concepts that explains its unique resilience. Think about it like this. On one side, you have a hype market. That's driven by short-term excitement and pure speculation, and it almost always ends in a crash. But on the other side, you have a meaning economy. This is driven by genuine cultural attachment and those predictable generational cycles. It doesn't just crash, it ebbs and it flows and it constantly renews itself. This gives rise to a totally new type of asset, a meaning asset. Its value comes from a blend of its story and its scarcity, and its liquidity, the ability for it to be bought and sold easily, is powered by all that cultural energy we've been talking about. This market is just fundamentally different. The graded slabs, they act as a kind of symbolic currency. They're like standardized, trusted capsules of meaning. This makes them way more accessible than something like fine art. And maybe most importantly, with every new generation of kids discovering Pokémon, the cycle of demand is pretty much endless. It's always renewing. And this all leads to the single most important takeaway. This market is structurally resistant to crashing. Why? Because even if the speculative prices fall back to earth, the underlying foundation, the nostalgia, the cultural significance, the meaning, that all remains. That meaning provides a permanent floor that hype markets simply do not have. So we end up right back where we started, but hopefully with a whole new perspective. The value of these little cardboard rectangles isn't just about a grade or a market price. It's about what they represent. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. When an object holds our collective memory, what is it truly worth?